Today on our Founder Collective table, we had a very powerful conversation about the fruit that we bear and how we do life around us. People genuinely want to know what's the most important thing when it comes to ministry. What do I need to do? God, how do I need to do this? And we're always asking the questions. And if you get back to the heart of it, it was always centered around how we do it. So I think as we really dive into the fruit, the joy, the peace, the love that we do life with, that we do everything with, there are people that are sitting in an audience in our life, maybe at the grocery store, the bank, your home, even, that are looking to see, do you really believe what you say? Do you really act out what you believe? So, Kim, I'm going to let you jump right in. You had a question I think that many of us have quite often. And it wasn't asked of anybody here. It was asked of God. And it's that weird, awkward place of trying to figure out life. And am I doing it good enough? So I would love to just let you kind of open us up.
Yeah, I just talked about, a revelation of sorts, and it's always a depth. I go deeper and deeper in different things, but I was really asking today, I want to serve and I want to do that from the right place. And I'm often asking God, what's your will? And I just really clearly heard him say today, he gave me a scripture because God won't forget your kindness, your faithfulness, and your service. Hebrews 6:10. And then I just heard him whisper that his will isn't a task. It's the way you're being. And so when we talked about the fruit of the spirit, it's, am I loving people well? Am I being compassionate to them? Am I being gentle? Am I being kind? Am I being forgiving? Am I being all of those things in my life every day? And that really hit home because I am in my head a lot. And at the same time, I have a really, really big, compassionate heart. But this understanding that I am constantly seeking, I'm constantly seeking to understand his word in a way so that I know his truth and not my truth. And so that I can know my identity, so I can know him. And so this was really valuable, for me today. And we talked about abiding also. And just that word in and of itself is huge. And, to research that word and know what that word really means. Again, this was something I, heard him say to me today. And when I say here, I mean, it'll come out in scripture, it'll come out in a devotion, it'll come out in something that somebody says, and then it's repeated and repeated. And I know it was what I was supposed to hear, but that abiding changes our wishes from being self-centered to Christ-centered.
Yeah.
And that all of that comes together. And so there's not a lot of this that has to happen. It's here. And just keep being the person that he created me to be. And that's not hard for me. It's easy for me to love people. It's easy for me to sit down, and you talked about seeing into a person's soul and really, the depth of where are you at? What are you experiencing? And then extracting or pulling from them their value, their identity, who he made them to be. And I'd say that's one of my gifts. I love to sit with people and see what's possible in them. And I do, and I feel it. And so if I can just keep my own, head wrapped around or out of the way and do what he's gifted me to do, I'm on the right track. And like I said earlier, the rest of it just falls away. It becomes easy. It falls into place, who we're supposed to be and what we're supposed to be if we follow that, be the fruits of the spirit.
Yeah. I think it's so powerful. Like if you think about, we say this all the time, that God chose 12 broken individuals but let's fast forward. Like he chose Paul too. This dude knew the word backwards and forwards. He was a keeper of the law. So he took him. But what's the one thing that Paul talks about so many times? Look at the letter to the Corinthians. He said, you can know all these things, you can do all these things. But what's the most important thing? The love that you do in using it. Look at just what you said a word at the very beginning, Kim. You said it's a depth thing. Paul prayed over the church of Ephesus, and what did he say? I pray that you would know the height, the width, the depth, and the length of not God's knowledge, not God's wisdom, of God's love. That's the place. He took somebody who knew everything and helped him to realize without love, it doesn't matter what you know. So for those of us who are learning and growing, if he can get the love right, the rest of that comes through that filter, and it's so different. Tammy, you gave an amazing example, but as real estate agent, because we think ministry sometimes is from a platform or a pulpit, but we have the impactful moment to really minister God's love in everything that we do. And as a real estate agent, I would love to know your heart be kind of from this process to see people where they're at.